Right, let's resume the meeting. So next is item 9, which is the 2019-2020 Summary of Celebrating Communities and Local Initiatives Fund, presented by Joanne Ransom.
Yes, you'll get to know me well today. This report, the Community Funding Policy 2018 requires that Council be advised of grants made during the year from these two funds, the Celebrating Communities Fund, which is open year round, and the Local Initiatives Fund that has set funding rounds. The purpose of the Celebrating Communities Fund is to help communities celebrate their strength and share them with communities. It can be a community of interest or a geographic community. Decisions are made by council officers. This is a very popular fund. Leading up to Christmas, we were about 75% spent, and we only got through the year without having to turn down high quality applications because of the COVID shutdown. So we were, it's a much loved fund. The Local Initiatives Fund, its purpose is to fund new, unique or innovative initiatives that address an issue or community of concern in Palmerston North. Now, the decisions are made by a 3-person panel consisting of 1 elected representative and 2 members of the public. We have struggled to fully allocate this fund in previous years, and this year the decision panel decided not to allocate funds to any of the applications. Looking to this current year, we're proposing to do things a little differently. So open the first round soon, run a number of rounds, and also have clinics or the opportunity for people thinking about applying to come and talk to the decision makers to so that they can put the best applications forward. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Jo. Councillor Rutherford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Jo. Just in regards to the Local Initiatives Fund, how often are we, in terms of funding rounds, are we not allocating any or minimal funds, and what are the main reasons that funds are being declined?
So I have only been involved in last year, and I know the decision panel did not feel that any of the applications met the criteria that they were able to fund them. My understanding is that in previous rounds we did allocate some funding, but there just weren't enough applications that met the criteria to the satisfaction of the decision makers.
And can you talk a little bit more about what aspects of criteria are not regularly being met?
I think the new, unique or innovative is a really high barrier. I mean, is it new under the sun? Because there's not much new under the sun. Is it new to the city, new to New Zealand? You know, is it so there's those kind of issues. And I think, you know, new, unique and innovative, it's a very high bar, I think, is my personal opinion.
I'm not sure how much detail the officer has because she's not on the selection panel. So I don't know.
No, that response I think was really helpful for me to understand. Thank you.
Councillor Butt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for the report, Joanne. It says that about a little more than 2,000 people participated in 18 events. Are you relying on these reports submitted by the groups, or council has its own way of getting data on people? Number one. Number two, it says $3.17 per head. Do you have any comparison of previous years? Are we making it cheaper or making it more people coming to the events? Or
thank you, Councillor. We do rely on applicants to self-report estimated numbers in their project acquittal reports. Mm-hmm. And no, we don't have any comparison data. that cost. I do need to clarify one matter in the table. The Manawatu Multicultural Council have appeared twice for funding for the Eid Multicultural Festival Fun Day. That's because it applies to two different festivals. So one was in August 2019 and one is in August 2020, and it was all the way the timing worked out. So so it's not one thing put in twice, it's two different events.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back to the Local Initiatives Fund, Joanna, I'm afraid. If Council were minded to review that fund, leading on from the comments you made in response to Councillor Rutherford, how would that happen?
So the community funding policy is up for a 3-year review, and so we've just been talking about how we might incorporate the review of that policy alongside the 10-year plan process, so that perhaps the policy could be consulted on within the same time frame. We've also, in the policy team, been talking about how we might roll up the support for community leases, those sorts of things, because it's all about how we support community organisations. So the more streamlined that policy can be, the better. So our expectation is that we'll be able to bring the reviewed policy and discussions with councillors through the 10-year plan process, so that the new policy would be adopted alongside the 10-year plan next year.
So that's your expectation going into long-term plan work. Does that need a recommendation, a resolution of council to achieve that? That's within officers.
No, there's already a 3-year review there. We have to work backwards to make sure there's guidance there for the SPG grants. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you.
No further questions? Thank you very much, Joanne and Julie. So, councillors, we've got one recommendation to receive the memorandum, which I'm happy to move, and Councillor Bowen will second. I'll just wait for that to come up on the screen. Oh yeah, it's over there. So are there any comments to that? Councillor Beattie.
There you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an additional recommendation, so can I put that up, please?
Yes. Yep. Have you already sent it to
yes,
the
it was sent,
administrator?
so
yeah. And I'm seconding that for you, I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's an additional recommendation. Do you want to talk to that?
Yes. The additional recommendation is for that we disestablish the LIF fund and transfer it to the Community Development Small Grants Fund. The reason for this is I'm actually the councillor that's on that panel, and we have struggled for the last, I've been on it 8 years, and I think there's only been one round where we've actually been able to give the money out to different organisations. The issue with it, it's the scope of it is too tight. It's around new initiatives, and the sort of things we've given it out to is like the Kind Hearts. That was a completely new initiative, like the Big Lantern thing that we did, the Crew Crescent Gardens. They were ones that we could give money out to, but a lot of them that come in this round didn't meet the criteria because they're already existing organisations, and if you go through, some of them just want to add a program to what they're already doing, or it's already existing in the city and other groups doing it. So when you go through the criteria, which is very strict, we just can't allocate the funds because we would be breaking the rules of the fund. So to go out again, because this is why I'm putting it up today, because I've just got there, we're just going to go out again, and I'm thinking we've been doing it not just once, but we've been doing it 3 times, and 3 times a year. So we might find one group for about 3,000, and then we go out again with the rest. So we do it 2 or 3 times a year. It's a lot of staff resource. It's only 28,000. When I look at the Community Development Fund, Community Development Small Grants Fund, that was oversubscribed by 120,000 this year. So we lose that 28,000. Oh my God, I've broken it down. Yeah. So you lose that funding. So the last 4 or 5 years, that funding has not gone to anybody. So it's my recommendation that we disestablish that fund. We've got community need. It's already been identified, and let's just transfer it into that small grants fund. So I urge you to support, please.
Thanks, Councillor Beattie. The General Manager has indicated that Julie MacDonald would like to make a comment regarding policy relating to this recommendation.
Thank you, councillors. I just wanted to note a couple of things about what you're discussing here in terms of the policy. So I guess I just wanted to note that we would be required to give you some advice, and that would probably need to come back to another committee process. The Local Government Act does advise that we need to give you advice if you're making decisions that are against adopted council policy. The community funding policy is adopted policy, and this fund has been adopted through the 10-year plan and is set out in that policy. So I just wanted to clarify that this is a reasonably significant thing to do in the first year of a fund's application. The other thing to note, I suppose, is that there's probably two issues here. One is about the administration of a fund and how that happens, and there are obviously mechanisms to review how funds are applied. And the second issue is what it's actually the process. So there's a process and the administration of the fund, and there's a policy issue. And I think it's really important to just make the distinction between those two things.
So if I can just ask a question, Julie. So are you saying that we can't make this decision because it would be against the currently adopted policy?
Yes. I think what I'm saying is that it would be advisable for staff to come back with some properly considered advice about the implications of that.
Before a decision like this was made?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit difficult to give that advice on the fly.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Councillor Beattie, would you like to reconsider?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we can just amend that to adding, that we report back on it.
That's the CE report back on a proposal to disestablish. Would that work for you, Julie, in terms of the?
Sorry,
not.
It's difficult because I'm trying to give advice. So I think if your intention is to disestablish the fund, then the premise for that would be that you consider it's not achieving what the policy suggests that you want it to achieve. I would consider from the outside that there are two things to look at. One is the fund the right thing, and two is how is it being administered. And perhaps it would be useful to have a reasonably broad recommendation that asks for some commentary on those two things. Just disestablishing the fund because it hasn't been fully allocated kind of seems to jump over the purpose of the fund and how it could be effective.
Okay, so I think what we might do is take a 5-minute adjournment while we work with you and Councillor Beattie and myself and on a suitable alternative recommendation. Are you happy with that, Councillor Beattie?
Yep, fine.
We'll just take 5 minutes, Councillor.